Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast where we discuss free agency in the world of professional wrestling. This is Ryan.
And I am Doug. Welcome everybody. Happy July.
Happy
We're into the
6th,
summer.
happy 6th of July.
Yes.
The little talked about sequel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. So a couple things that I think I want to talk about before we get into everything. So this is I think we're finally getting into this realm where we're not really having any certain people that are going to be jumping. So it's going to be an interesting session as
I
we go through
mean,
this.
maybe. We'll find out during the course of this episode.
Yeah. But I mean, just in general, over the last couple months, it's like we're slowly getting away from, you know, that our tracker has been getting pretty bottom heavy lately.
Yes, it has. It has, yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting as we go forward. But before we get started, I just want to reiterate that this is a free agency wrestling podcast where we discuss the world of pro wrestling free agency. You could follow us on Twitter or X, as well as on our Substack where we do long form writing as well. Today, though, we're going to be going through a number of people that have had some updates on, and and some of them are going to be kind of interesting. We're going to have some interesting discussions. So this is going to be a fun episode. But I think before we do that, we want to go over, we're going to discuss where everything stands right now. So if you're following us, well, I guess we're not doing the video, are we?
We're live right now.
We're not doing that. Yeah, we're live. So
We're on
doing it
YouTube right
live.
now. We're on
Doing it
YouTube right
live.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you take a look right now on our tracker, this is where everything is now. If you're just listening on audio, don't worry about it because it's going away anyway. So why don't we jump right into the first person that we need to talk about? And that's going to be, well, that's going to be Hikuleo, who once again, we finally can say that we can take with it. He's been kind of the mascot of WrestleWatch as over the last year, who's just been sitting at the top of the tier list.
Yes, Hikuleo, or now as he might be better known to our WWE listening audience, Tala Tonga, has officially debuted now. He was on our tracker for 335 days, dating back to 420, nice, of 2024. Yeah, so this is the newest addition to the bloodline. He debuted to help screw over Jacob Fatu so that Solo Sikoa could win the U.S. Championship. You see him on your screen right now if you're watching us on YouTube. Along with some other New Japan alum there. You see the now JC Mateo or Jeff Cobb. And you have in the background at least one Gorilla of Destiny. If not both, he might be back there as well. So, yes, we have Hikuleo finally debuting for us here. Do you think that this saga... What do you think about this saga? I think is just the best way of asking that question regarding Hikuleo. He had been wrestling on main event and some dark matches on WWE as of late. He had originally been planned to do something on NXT, but for some reason those plans fell through. We don't know why. And now he's finally debuted on main roster, direct to main roster as a member of the new Bloodline.
It's weird because first of all, congrats to him for getting a paycheck for doing literally nothing for a year plus. To start with that, and then it was weird because it feels like if they're gonna keep him out this long, it's either one they're trying to build suspense or they had no idea what to do with him, and clearly it seems like the latter was more the case, and it could be maybe because as we said, there's one Gorilla of Destiny there. Maybe once Tama Tonga got, injured, that kind of threw things off, and they kind of put everything on hold, which is possible. It could be that they wanted him to develop a little bit more as a worker because he was kind of presented pretty well in New Japan, especially on the U.S. Strong shows. He was, a champion at one point, but he was never a super worker, and maybe they wanted him to try to improve. I don't know that he did. I mean, I guess we'll find out, but it's just a weird situation in the sense that he was probably signed at a time where it seemed like they were just trying to scoop up some people. It wasn't anything like 2019 where WWE was signing and extending every single person just for fear that they were going to go to AEW. But there was a little blip around the time that he signed that they were kind of picking up people. And that seems like that was the case with him. We had him at certain for the longest time. Do you, off the top of your head, do you have it or out in front of you when he went to certain?
I can certainly um take a look at that. Well, wow, we've gone through. He has been in that tier for so long. What do you think the name of the tier was when he joined it?
I'm gonna say safe.
No,
Jump.
it was S tier. Um, um, he has been on there since July 27th of 2024. He's almost got to a year of staying in that tier. I'm just gonna read off the tier list at that point because this is quite interesting to look at 1 year ago where the tier list was sitting. Just some of these notable names of where they were at that time. We had Ricochet and Motor City Machine Guns up in the likely tier, which turned out to be right.
Yes.
In Improbable, we had Ricky Starks, we had the Hardys, Alex Windsor, Leo Rush, Bobby Lashley, Dijak. All of those turned out to be right. Grizzled Young Veterans and Zilla Fatu, not as much.
Yeah.
Toss-ups were, we had Speedball and Toss-up.
Yeah.
We had Danhausen and Toss-up.
Okay, well, and we'll see on that one.
We had the TNA as a Toss-up.
Yeah, and I think to keep in mind, this tier list, this is probably back when we still consider TNA a jump.
Yeah, TNA itself. Yeah. Megan Bain, Jake Lee, MVP. Were toss-ups. Then down in the other side of the realm, we had like Kevin Owens and Becky Lynch and Sheamus, and the only ones that are down there that were turned out to be jumps in the bottom two tiers were Tekla, Jordan Grace, Shelton Benjamin, and that's it. Actually, everybody else stayed where they were. Like we had Hook down there who's still with AEW, El Phantasmo, Michael Oku still hasn't signed anywhere. El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. is the only one that really like we flipped on badly, but that was because it didn't seem like he was actually going to show up anywhere of note, and he didn't really. And then now I guess he's with AAA. It's complicated, but yeah, like everybody else. The tier list was pretty good a year ago.
Yeah.
Except for Hikuleo, where
Yes.
we were certain, but back then the definition of that tier was imminent debut. So I think that he kind of broke the definition on imminent, right?
Yeah, this clearly did not work out the way we were expecting. I
Mhm.
mean, maybe he imminently signed. He imminently got a paycheck. He
Yes.
imminently, so that happened.
He imminently debuted on the payroll.
Imminently benched.
Imminently benched. No.
Apologies to Nick Khan, but yeah. So it finally happened. We could finally take him off the tier list. So that's good. I don't think we need to go over voting with that. I think everyone is confirmed. Yeah, he's a confirmed jump. He jumped. He's gone. So congratulations, Hikuleo. You are now, doing stuff.
Yeah. So how about we move on then to another person who was on the tier list a year ago. Just under a year ago by now, we had Alex Windsor up in the likely tier. She made her way all the way down to like unlikely, and then now she was certain for a little bit again, following some comments and rumors, for the source being her significant other. Her fiance, I believe, is the current term, Mr. Ospreay, saying, "Oh yeah, she's coming to AEW. She's just waiting on her visa." Then we had her challenge Sareee for the IWGP Women's Belt at an Eve show, which she lost the match, but then after the match said she's all elite. People were like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. You're just gonna say that? You can just announce that? You can just say that? You don't have to use a graphic or anything? Well, she got more than a graphic. She got a video package on this week's episode of Collision, announcing that she was coming to AEW to stay. She said something kind of funny to me, saying something about like she had to prove something to her son, and I was like, oh yeah, prove to your son that his father can stay at home sometimes. So Alex Windsor here is now formally in the AEW roster. What do you think about this saga? Do you think that this was a good pickup by AEW, and do you think that this was a good movement for Windsor?
I do. I will say that it was an interesting discussion on this one, because I think a lot of people didn't want to fall into the trap of just, oh, someone's spouse is going to go there. And I think they didn't want to, because I think that's a problematic mindset for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although I think that the thing that people weren't thinking about, and it might be because they weren't as familiar with her work, is that she is a very solid worker who has been at the top of the British indie scene for a while.
Former Ace of Eve, she won the She Won tournament, which had her go on and challenge. She had a little run in Tokyo Joshi Pro. And then I mean, she that's the thing. It's like she's not just like someone who's, she's not a nepotism hire.
Correct.
Which I think which is why a lot of people were trying to kind of be careful with their wording with her, because they didn't want it to be perceived that way, because she is genuinely a really great talent and has done great in the UK scene, especially in the post speaking out era. That was really when she took off, which is, interesting. Now, having said that, it's like, obviously we saw this past week that she had a video package on Collision detailing her debut. So to me, that is more than enough to confirm that she has jumped. I don't know that she got the graphic. Did she get the graphic?
No, she posted a homemade graphic on Instagram, I believe. But still, like, her saying that she's all elite in person, Sareee saying that she's all elite, her getting a video package where she says that she's all elite on AWTV. I think that all those qualify enough.
I think so too. So with that, I think, congratulations to Alex Windsor, the newest signing to AEW. I think she'll fit in really well.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because the person I thought she's similar to Chris Statlander in a lot of ways, and oddly enough, what happens with Chris Statlander this week
goes and wins a belt. Yeah.
She wins the Eve Championship. So Eve seems to be a lot more connected to AEW than it had been in the past.
Well, now that Ospreay's, I think he's booking, or he has a hand in the booking.
I don't know that I'm sure Dan Reed is still the booker.
Ospreay said he was doing something with Eve though, as far as booking. But yeah.
So it definitely seems like they're a lot more connected, and which makes sense because Eve and Rev Pro have always had pretty close ties. So seeing, that compare, I could see them being tied as well. So it's just an extension. I don't want to say like, Eve is like to Rev Pro what Stardom is to New Japan, but there is some type of connect. They're connected, or at least partnered and friendly in some regard.
Yeah, and also because like Rev Pro has a women's division, so it's more. I guess it'd be closer to like.
Well, technically, New Japan has a women's division too.
Well, it'd be closer to like DDT.
Yeah.
Like as setup goes, where it's like, yeah, there are men and women that fight here. Also, there's a women's promotion that we kind of work with.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Yeah. So, Eve, I think, announced but hasn't formally put on sale a show for I think it's the Friday or might be the Saturday of I guess Forbidden Door weekend of August bank holiday weekend.
I think it's the day before.
Yeah, so that is a new promotion getting added to the mix for the AEW London weekend. They haven't done a show there for the weekend before.
Right, because Rev Pro will probably still have it. They still have their show, right?
So Rev Pro has a two-nighter. this year.
Yeah.
They're doing Friday and Saturday night, which is kind of it rankled some of the feelings of the other promotions because last year, the first year, everybody was kind of Wild West about it, about going up against each other on the schedule, and then last year everybody was on the same page of like, hey, so like let's not compete with each other. Let's make it so that everybody can go to all the shows that they want to, except Rev Pro didn't do that. And so the other promotions were thinking, okay, maybe this year everybody would be on the same page. And then Rev Pro was like, yeah, but what if I did 2 nights and also it's at Crystal Palace, so it's far away from downtown. How about I do that? But now, yeah, Eve will have a show as well. As far as I'm aware, Attack North are still. I forget what the third promotion there that did the garage. I think that they're all still doing that venue again this year. Progress has solidified themselves as doing the Monday show, which I think is very fun. It feels like a little like dessert kind of a show. Everybody's a little bit knackered by the time that the show happens. Everybody's like on the same page of like, yeah, we've had a crazy weekend. Some of the wrestlers have had a crazy weekend. Tom Campbell is the ring announcer and he loses his voice in the middle of the show because he screamed his head off at Wembley Stadium. Like that's what the show is. It's just like a kind of like a car crash, but in a fun way.
Those are the best kind of shows.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that entirely. I think that that's something that like other promotions. It will be interesting to see the. I won't be there personally, but I believe you'll be there for the Tokyo Joshi Pro show in Dallas.
Yeah,
the day after All In.
I'm going to the ROH show. I'm going to All In, and then I'm going to the Tokyo Joshi Pro. So I'm doing those 3 in a row.
Yeah, I'm just doing ROH and All In. But yeah, I thought about doing the Tokyo Joshi Pro, and I just decided not to because it was a little bit too distant for me, at least. But I think that there will be a similar vibe to that show because there will be some talent that, you know, they did the Tokyo show in Houston the day or two before. There'll be some that did ROH and or All In the 2 days prior, or maybe even did Dynamite and Collision, or did the GCW show that'll be there in Dallas, or the House of Glory show that'll be, I think, in Fort Worth. So there'll be plenty of people that will be like, you know, having done multiple shows that weekend. The crowd will be, you know, last show of a weekend kind of vibe. It will probably be a silly fun time.
Yeah, I think so.
But
I will say this.
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
So will the world collapse if we are in the same building at the same time, though?
It's possible. We'll find out if we record together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, speaking of Alex Windsor, I think that she will slot herself pretty nicely into a mid-card role in AEW, at least at the beginning. Premiering her on Collision with a video package kind of slots her into that kind of TBS kind of level, whereas Tekla is, you know, getting these she got a big debut. She's had some big matches so far with the relation to the Casino Gauntlet qualifying matches. That's kind of been the, at least on the men's side, that's been like a, hey, you're upper mid card if you're in one of these matches, you know, like Takesha's in this match, and MJF is competing for this slot, and you know, we're gonna add Mystico to the match too, and you know, like that's kind of like what people see with the men's side. So the women's side is essentially the same thing. They're giving the same light of day to it of like, yeah, we're gonna have a qualifier for the number 2 slot even, you know. So they're presenting the women's match as just as big of a deal, at least, you know, in kayfabe, as the men's matches presented. So I think that Tekla is being slotted in that kind of like level, you know, whereas Windsor might debut formally in that match, but she's not being in one of the qualifying matches. So I think that that's a good role for her. She had a really good match, I thought, with Athena at Grand Slam Australia. She's had good matches with people that are in that kind of TBS circuit before, when they've come to the UK or when she's come to the US. So I think that she'll be a very solid hand in the mid and upper mid card for AEW, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe she'll be even bigger of a star than what I'm saying right now.
I mean, I think that a lot of people aren't aware of how solid she is. I think that, I think it also depends. Here I'll say this: a lot of people who are on Collision, I feel like that's a lot of times the uh, family people show. You know what I mean?
Like,
Like the
like, what do you mean by
people.
that?
I mean, it's the people who have kids. Like FTR has always said, like hey,
My
we have
wife, my
kids,
kids.
and we want to be home during the week.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it could be that could also be why she's on Collision, or seems to be. And we'll see if she stays on Collision. Um, but I do think that she has a real chance to break out. I think a lot of people, I'll see what happens. I'm
Well,
curious to see what's going to happen next weekend.
I think with the women's division, how it kind of seems to be divided is like, Dynamite is kind of the big characters show, and and this kind of works with the men's too. Is that Collision is the worker kind of show, and
Hmm.
Dynamite is the character kind of show. Um, so you'll get more matches happen on Collision than happen on Dynamite usually. You'll get more women's matches on Collision than Dynamite usually. You'll get more pure tag team division matches on Collision than Dynamite.
The crazy great multi-person tag matches a lot of times are on Collision, and those are always great.
Yeah, the ones that are like, this is a workers kind of multi-man, not a this is a party match, are usually Collision kind of ones, whereas a party match is a Dynamite kind of one. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think that like it means that like look, Megan Bayne has been really like a stalwart on Collision for a little bit, and I think that it's worked.
Yeah.
I think that
And
she's been allowed to like really progress up the card, and they've done a really good job after her losing to Toni Storm of keeping her relevant. And I think that the way that they've handled the Casino Gauntlet, and that mixture of like 8 women now it seems like, and there might be up to 10 women are going to be in this like little scene of like an upper mid card of the women's division. Like look, either way of if Mercedes wins or loses, you're going to get her having a having to defend against one of these people, one of her belts. you
yeah,
know, so I think it's good that they're keeping all of them big and relevant and using Collision as a platform for such.
yeah, and I think Collision does a good job with simpler pushes and simpler storytelling. Where Dynamite, obviously, as you said, is a little bit. It's going to be more character, more complicated. And someone like Megan Bayne, for example, works really well with just the simple, "Hey, I'm I'm big and powerful, and I'm gonna win."
Yeah,
And those simple stories like that. And I think someone like Alex Windsor, who's just like, "Hey, I'm a super solid worker, and I'm just gonna win matches and get a push that way." Those stories work better in Collision, I feel.
yeah. Um, from the comments here on YouTube, thank you everybody who is watching with us live here on YouTube. We have our top fan TC, as YouTube says. Gave TC a little crown here. Asking about do you think that they're gonna do the clipboard gimmick again with the match? I don't think they will. I think that
I
it's going to be like oh yeah, you have to call your shot.
Yeah, I really hope they don't. I mean, I've talked about this before, but I really feel like, those money in the banks type cash in things, they I get it's good for cheap heel heat, but I think it really devalues championships when you do that. So I'd rather they just I think as a call your shot situation is much, much better.
Next up here, we're going to talk about AJ Styles. Okay, so this is a weird one to me, at least. We did get some rumors out there swirling, starting from some notable kind of rumor tier kind of people, but people that know things, such as Ibu and Jacob. They were saying that they had heard rumblings that AJ Styles might have re-signed with WWE. Fightful Select then did a report that this is the exact phrasing. Okay, this is not me, like trying to paraphrase or anything like that. They said that Fightful, spoke to those familiar with the situation who claimed that those close to Styles said he had signed a 1-year extension with WWE. Fightful had not heard anything about when it was signed nor when it would expire. They had not heard from WWE sources or Styles directly on this. Um, so let's take it at face value first off. Let's go with that level. Let's say that this secondhand reporting that Fightful had heard from somebody that Styles had re-signed a 1-year contract is extremely accurate reporting. It's a 1-year contract, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, you would think in a situation like this, we have a confirmed jump. I mean, a confirmed stay, a confirmed re-signing. So we would take them off, right?
Technically, yes, he has stayed with WWE. However, it is for allegedly 1 year, and we don't know when it starts.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah,
such a strange situation because this is a time, because of this, we have a situation where someone re-signed with their company. And in my opinion, this means that they're more likely to jump.
yeah, that's my gut reaction to. Is
Yeah.
that look, why is he signing a 1-year deal if he's intending to stay long term there? It's either he's doing a 1-year deal because he's there are three scenarios in my mind with this. One is the injury time kind of thing. So he had at least 7 months of injury time for his contract. He had the injury time when he was injured just recently, right? And then he had the injury time where he came back jacked, if we all remember that one. So he had at least 7 months of injury time, right? His contract was supposed to have expired around the beginning of this year. So if we add around 7 months, that gets us to around now, right? So the question then is, as was in the Spiteful report, is they don't know when this contract was re-signed. They don't know what the term is. In essence, they know that it's 1 year from when it was signed, but they don't know when it was signed. Possible that it's retroactive for the beginning of this year, that he's going to be expired by December. It's possible that it's a year from today. So it's somewhere in the range between December of this year and next June. AJ Styles is with WWE.
Yeah. So he might have a contract expired in like 5 months.
He could.
Yeah. So this is that's why this is such a weird one. And the fact that he is only, and as you said, the fact that he is only signed for a year, why would someone do that?
Yeah,
And then
so this is actually a comment that we have here in the chat here. TC says AJ's old. Is it possible that he's gonna take it year by year until he decides to retire? That is option number 2 with this, is that he's trying to retire and he's just taking it year by year. Maybe gonna retire at the end of this deal. The third option, of course, is the one that Feels here says maybe he wants to wait for Ospreay to get the title before facing him at All In. Yeah, it's possible that the 1 year is because he's just like, oh yeah, let me just like formalize this injury time and everything like that. Let's all be good boys about all of this, and then like I'll jump after we do a nice formal contract and everybody's happy. Maybe that's it.
it could be but here's the thing, and I'll say this. Let's say that he is taking it. I don't know that I buy that he's taking it year by year because he's not sure where he'll physically be. Because if WWE offered him a 5-year deal and if he had no intention of jumping, I think he would take that. It'd be a smart thing to take because, like, okay, let's say you can't go injury wise. That's not your fault. That's not going to hurt you because you signed a 5-year deal. That'd be on WWE to deal with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, I think that this is. I think it's also it could be a what's it called? A leverage situation where he knows that he has a lot of leverage and that why would he sign long term when he could just sign for 1 year and maybe just keep playing each company against each other for 12-month periods. That's a possibility too.
That's a possibility, yeah. So where are we sitting then on this?
So I know everyone was kind of all over the place with this. I personally would have moved him up from remote to unlikely. However, I know that not everyone feels that way. Some people, thought, hey, we could take him off. Some people thought we should keep him on. Some people said he should just stay at remote. I think the best thing to do is to just keep him at remote.
I agree with that, and that is where he is going to stay for the moment. Look, we here at WrestleWatch, our window is ostensibly a year out is what we're looking at for when we're looking at the chances of someone leaving their current promotion and signing to a new promotion. So when we look at the tracker, like we looked at it a year ago by now, earlier today when we talked about our favorite tallest of Tongans, we looked at that and said, hey, well, Tala Tonga was supposed to have been, debuted by now, and it turned out to be accurate. Most of the people that we had in the upper half of the tier, we were right about the time scale. Most of them jumped within, the 6-month window, even, I would say. And then most of the people that were in the bottom half of that tier list, if they did jump, they were fairly recent. So, like, for example, we had Tekla on the bottom half of of the tracker a year ago, and it took almost a year for her to formally jump to AEW. Shelton Benjamin is really the only one where we really missed on that time scale, but that was because we were just uncertain about what was going to end up happening with him. I think that when we're looking at this as like a time frame kind of reference point where we're not sure about if it could be anywhere between 5 months to a year from now, it is a remote chance that he leaves at the end of this contract that he re-signed. It is I think a remote chance at this point because it is an uncertain time scale, an uncertain thing.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that, and I think we'll see what happens. We're going to be talking about AJ within the next year, so that's the key thing. Regardless of what we decide here, he's going to come up again. Even if we took him off, he'd be coming up again really soon.
That's kind of how I feel about how Bayley is still on the tier list, even though we have a ticking clock that is around September, October of 2026, but the fact that there has been so much smoke, she's staying on, And so with AJ, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, he re-signed. Oh, it's only for a year. That's some smoke. So he's staying on for now as a remote chance of leaving WWE to go somewhere else within the next year. Next up, we're going to move over to the Joshi scene and back into kind of the AEW sphere of influence. We have some talk to do about Miyu Yamashita. This is pretty intriguing because we had been talking about her before it really started coming out about all these things. We just kind of got this feeling that something is going on with her. And it seems that we might be right about this feeling. So Yamashita was featured in a social media post by ROH as in action, which you see on your screen if you're watching here on YouTube. Something not normally done for guest performers. She also was removed from a Tokyo Joshi Pro show in Texas, the one in Houston, which is, we referenced that earlier. That is on the same night as Supercard of Honor. That is leading to speculation that she will be appearing on Supercard of Honor. In addition, what was it? Last night or 2 nights ago, GCW had a show where she tag teamed with Megan Bayne and Billy Starks, which kind of raised some eyebrows of like, wait, is this like the Tony Khan GCW luxury trio?
That was last night. Yeah,
it was last night. It
was a great match.
Yeah, so they faced a trio of men and I believe kicked their asses. But yeah, like it was kind of like, wait a second, hold up. Hey, what are these 3 teaming together for?
And that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of smoke right now.
Yeah,
a lot of smoke and here's the thing. Obviously, Miyu, it's been spending a lot of time in the United States for like a year now, maybe more.
I think she seems to be maxing out those days, consecutive days of being in the country.
Yeah. So to me, it feels like I don't know, it could be a thing where, it felt like the longest time that she's just been like trying to do stuff. And maybe it was like I don't know if she had a work visa. Maybe it was, I don't know how visas necessarily work. I'm full disclosure. But I do know that we are seeing AEW or Ring of Honor, more specifically, doing things with her that we've never seen them do with an unsigned talent, and the fact that it's been very, very obvious that she wants to work in the United States. It just seems like stuff is finally happening. And obviously, she's probably going to be on that Ring of Honor show if she got pulled from Tokyo Joshi Pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, yeah, she's always been on our radar as someone. Her and Makito, to be honest, are two people that see that they're making a lot more money or can make a lot more money in the United States than they can in Japan. Makito's found her niche. Miyu has been kind of going in a different direction, a more and kind of angling for more of a typical contract, and she may have gotten it now. So I think we don't know for sure, though. I mean, it is possible that Ring of Honor is still a Tokyo Joshi Pro affiliated. Like they're still friendly with AEW. They still obviously you have Takeshita is a big tie there. So it could be a thing with DDT, I should say. So it could just be a thing where they're trying to be friendly partner promotions, but I've still never seen anything like this outside of like Mystico. So for that reason, I think it is probable that we are seeing a possible move towards her jumping and signing with either AEW or Ring of Honor.
TC in the chat says Yamashita practically lives in the States at this point. Let's not say that word. Let's not get her disappeared into
get her speedballed.
Alligator Alcatraz or something.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, jeez. Let's not do that either. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the work visas work, is that you have to you can only work for a certain amount of time, and then you have to return to your homeland for a certain amount of time before you can come back. That's also a similar thing with like tourist visas, or like if your country has a relationship that allows you to like go to another country for a certain amount of time. Like I think, like for example, as a U.S. citizen, I can go to the U.K. for like 6 months at a time, but then you have to leave for like 3 months if you've been there for 6 consecutive months or something like that, or like you have like a limit of amount of time that you're allowed to be there for a certain like 2-year period or something like that.
I think it's similar with Canada, except I don't know that you need to go back for 3 months. I think just you need to go back and redo your visa. I don't know how long that takes though.
But yeah, so like for example, right now, as confirmed by her cat being in the interview that Kenny Omega did with Dave Meltzer, Shida is currently still in Japan.
Yes.
And that was the confirmation of that, was that her cat is still with Kenny Omega. So she's still redoing the paperwork on her visa work. So Miyu probably has like, if you're working freelance, you have to have a company sponsoring you. Obviously, if she were to sign formally with ROH or AEW, and has a long-term formal booking, it makes it a lot easier for her paperwork purposes. Rather than like, oh yeah, GCW, this thing that has one-off appearances, like it doesn't. It might not pass the smell test with immigration as much as like having like a WWE or AEW back you, or TNA for that matter too. So that's why the processing for people that are working for those companies usually seems a lot better than the ones when it's just like an indie person tries to work an indie show, and why you see people get canceled a lot for indie shows rather than you don't see it as much for like WWE especially. They seem to have a pretty good legal department with immigration. But yeah, point is, Miyu seems like she's probably going to be signing with ROH at this point. Or yes, she might already be signed with them. So
that's my take on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have DDT and TJPW's relationship with AEW is interesting to me, says TC in the chat, since they're aligned with Noah, who is very much Team WWE. Yeah, I think that it kind of breaks down to how Abima use the properties, and that like they seem to be pushing Noah in a different direction than their other two properties. Let's stay in Japan. How about that?
I think that's probably smart. Makes a smooth transition, to say the least.
Let's stay in Japan with everybody's favorite freelancer in the world, Sareee.
So, yeah, we haven't talked. We have not. Since the last time we had a show, she was challenging for the IWGP title,
Yes.
and since that time, Sareee has won it.
Uh-huh.
And with this, she's also done a number of other things. She's done some interviews. She had a piece with her going to visit Antonio Inoki's grave.
Yes, which if you're watching the video, you see an image from her visit there.
She also made a point of when people asked her about her defending the title here, and she made a comment where she said, I'm going to defend this, I'm going to fight, and then I'm not running away or something along those lines. How the translation worked exactly.
Yeah,
but it was interesting wording, at least how it came across in translation.
I checked, and it is the same wording as the runaway, as Mayu Iwatani's nickname.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Sareee was being a little cheeky, I think, about that. She was in like this video that she posted on her YouTube channel. She does like a vlogging on her YouTube channel. Sareee Sun God, I believe, is the handle of it if people want to see this video. She was asked about like, oh yeah, how do you feel like it fits in with, well, it's a women's championship and stuff, and she was like, yeah, but it's in the same spirit and the fighting spirit of Inoki, and I'm going to bring my style to it and preserve fighting spirit. She said something. She was also asked about like, well, it's a world championship, and she said that she wants to defend it as a world championship, and take it everywhere, which could mean everywhere in Japan. As she is like, Japan's #1 freelancer. It could mean like going worldwide with it, although she is scheduled for the Grand Prix for Stardom. So it's possible that she won't be at something like Forbidden Door. But we'll cross. It seems like it's more likely that Shuri might be doing Forbidden Door this year as far as Stardom's representation. But I think that there's still the possibility that like if Sareee doesn't make the finals, or whoever doesn't make the finals of the 5-star Grand Prix, that we might be seeing those people at Forbidden Door.
And we also don't know that we're going to have Stardom talent at Forbidden Door. Because Forbidden Door has always been such a weird thing where sometimes, like, because was it last year where we had Swerve versus Ospreay?
Last year was Swerve versus Ospreay, which was an odd match to put on Forbidden Door, but like as far as a concept, it is a Forbidden Door for the one champion, your #2 champion, to challenge for the #1 belt. That is kind of it is within the spirit of the concept, even though it is not within the spirit of the actual like show itself.
And then I think a lot of people think that we might see, just because in terms of where each promotion is, Forbidden Door it's always been, it started with AEW New Japan, and that was always the spirit with Tanahashi's quote with the Forbidden Door. That was always the idea. But that doesn't mean that CMLL might become like the primary partner promotion for this show, or at least another one. It could just that's very likely. It could be AEW, CMLL, and New Japan.
I think that the Grand Slam, the Grand Slamification kind of makes me think that it's not going to be as likely, because they've kind of already like done it, they already had that season, to be, blunt. So, and then also Zack Sabre Jr. winning the top belt in New Japan kind of points in the direction of like, yeah, no, we're gonna be doing this crossover show coming up. That's why Zack's got the belt back.
Yeah, in the UK. Yeah, it makes a lot of it does make a lot of sense. When Zack won that title, it was very much like, oh, I guess it does make sense.
Now, last year's Forbidden Door, as far as CMLL talent go, it was just Hachizero and Mystico on the pre-show. Titan was also on the pre-show with that match. But then of the women's matches, you had Stephanie Vaquer. She was wearing the New Japan Strong Belt, though, so she was technically New Japan representative from CMLL.
Yeah.
Mina Shirakawa, who was at the time on Stardom. And then in the on the pre-show, we had Tam Nakano and Momo Watanabe on the pre-show. Momo has since reappeared in AEW to challenge Mercedes Moné. Mina Shirakawa has since signed to AEW, and Stephanie Vaquer has since left the orbit of these companies. So I think that there was a movement, and also since then there has been movement of more integration of Stardom, both in who is coming over to AEW for appearances and who is signed to AEW of late. Like we've seen Azumi on AEW programming during the past year. We've seen Momo Watanabe on AEW programming in the last year. They've signed Mina Shirakawa and Tekla. So it seems that Shuri might be doing some AEW excursion work coming up, allegedly. That's the rumoring of it all. So I think that it seems that they are serious about having some Stardom representation as far as like looking at the past year of booking goes. As far as Sareee goes, and that's what the topic at hand is. I think that her winning the IWGP belt and making a showing of going to Inoki's grave and all those kinds of things, like it still is that she is Japan's #1 freelancer, but what if this is a little bit more smoke to what's going on here? Maybe Bushi Road wants to, develop a relationship with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I think I think that maybe they do. But to me, I don't know that there's nothing here to really make me say, okay, I think things are going to move. We had her at unlikely. I would keep her at unlikely personally, just because I haven't seen anything to indicate that this is any different than her time in Marigold, where she was the top champ and just still being a freelancer. I don't see anything different yet. Having said that, she is, there's a lot of reasons to think that this could be different. Obviously, Marigold was not exactly a company on strong foundations, whereas Stardom is. And I could understand her maybe wanting to put down roots somewhere and still do her other stuff, which Stardom would allow. So I could understand moving her up to possible as well. I personally would stay at unlikely, but I could see the move.
Yeah, we're gonna move her up to possible. Is the resolution on that? So I think you're happy with it, but not. This isn't where you would place her.
Yeah, I don't. It's not a hill to die on, and I think that ultimately it's still on the. It's under toss up. I'm not like saying it's likely that she's going to sign. It's just we're at this point now where we're looking at a situation with with her, and we just don't. Based off of history, I don't know that I see enough that say that this has changed.
So based off of history, speaking of things that haven't really changed, let's look at the quick hits for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Bayley is remaining on the tier list as unlikely, as referenced earlier on the show when we talked about AJ Styles. She has over a year still to go, which is usually with outside the purview, but there's been so much smoke going on about Bayley that it's kind of prudent just to leave her on for the moment. I would have moved her down to remote because it is a remote time frame, but I understand keeping her on.
Yeah, I think especially in the when it's someone who is as outspoken as she is, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying she's going to get released.
Oh yeah. She's the type of person that, okay, so if we look at AEW and how they do things, and this is something that we discussed about with talking about how to slot people on the tier list before, is that AEW has a track record of honoring releasing people when they request it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has been kind of accepted that we can keep somebody on the tier list for AEW when we know that it is, a long time possibly for their contract, because if they have enough smoke about wanting to leave AEW, then, you know, it could be honored. It could be honored. With WWE, when somebody has so much smoke about wanting to get released, usually that means they're never going to get released. They're never going to do that, They're never going to let somebody go because they want to leave. So that does bring down the likelihood for somebody like Bayley if she has all this smoke this early on.
Yeah, but I'm fine. I think it's important to keep someone like her on though, because she's someone who is going to be so full in the discussion, especially as the top of our tracker is getting kind of empty. That people are going to be. She's going to be the person people are going to be talking about. She's going to be the one in the news, and it's kind of. I think it's important to just kind of keep her on there, just because a year from now, she's probably going to be the biggest story that we're going to be covering on this show.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree on that. And yeah, she does have a match for the upcoming Evolution show, which has been an interesting build for a card.
And
where
also,
she's in the triple threat between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, which just sounds like a way to have her get pinned or her to win the title without one of those two pinning each other.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Um,
And also, I think I just want to bring this up just because we probably should mention it, just because Sean Ross Sapp did say, like on his, he was taking a Q&A on YouTube, and he did say he thinks he could absolutely see Bayley leaving.
Yeah, he said it was possible.
Yeah.
That there are high enough odds of her going to AEW. It doesn't mean when he's saying it like that, it doesn't mean greater than 50% odds. But
yeah, it's just I think it's worth mentioning that it was brought up.
Yeah, she is somebody that even somebody like Sean Ross Sapp is not just dismissing it offhand. He could if it was a situation where it's like this next person, Britt Baker, where we had I guess it was Pro Wrestling Nexus really was the source of this, and the source of it was some random people who I don't really know. I've not seen their names before in the reporting biz, saying that Britt Baker had requested her release. This was then refuted by Mike Johnson and Sean Ross Sapp, and Mike Johnson went off on them about misinformation-y kind of stuff. Sean Ross Sapp said that every single person that he talked to in AEW was like, that just flat out not true. Britt wants to come back and work. She isn't trying to get out of here. He had referenced a match that they were talking about doing for her in the past 2 months that just fell through. The match turned out to be the original thought was having her face Toni Storm at Double or Nothing. Which would have fit in with where her reign was, and would have definitely been a hiccup possible, hey, this is a person that could theoretically beat Toni Storm, and then you could have Britt Baker versus Mercedes at All In, or you could have Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter at All In. That is that works, as an interesting concept, as far as storytelling goes. It makes sense. So, it didn't happen. That just, sometimes things just don't work out. And so Sean's there's enough of track record here that that is not the case, that Britt is trying to ask for her release. Here is an example of how that is not true.
It feels, and here's the thing. I think we talked briefly on this, but bodyslam.net, who was Cassidy Haynes, that was his big platform.
Mm-hmm.
It did go under some changes. It merged with his Pro Wrestling Nexus, correct?
Yeah, that they've latched on some people from that.
Yeah. So I think that because of that, a lot of people, because I generally trust Cassidy Haynes. He's not always perfect, but I think he's a good dirt sheet guy. But I do think that this reeks of just someone who saw Britt's post, her social media post about the price of bottled water, and where she's saying the bottled water is valued differently depending on where you are. We're at the supermarket, the gym, at an arena, it costs different. If you not valued somewhere, go someplace else. I think someone saw that post and then just tried to extrapolate it out for clicks.
Yep.
Which is very, very, that's some low rate dirt sheet writing
Yep.
for clicks.
Yep.
And I think that's exactly what happened here.
I think that she's somebody that is going to continue to be brought up every so often, just because of, she's not around.
Like, okay, would you be shocked if she didn't resign when her contract is up and went to WWE?
I would not be shocked whatsoever. I wouldn't be shocked if she asked for her release. That's why I think that this story got off the ground, was like people were like, oh well, I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the key here is a lot of this is all like people who talk to people in AEW. I don't have any inkling that anyone talked to Britt.
I don't think so, and I don't think that. I don't even like, this is what TC says in the chat. The Brit thing reads as WWE just putting out stuff out there to undermine AEW. I think that it's possible that somebody had a bogus source essentially, and that it got ran with.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that it was just someone running with this, reading too much into a social media post.
Yeah, I do think that there was an article that kind of what TZ is referencing. There was a report, I'm trying to remember from where, but they were saying that, and let me try to find it. This is great banter.
Well,
right
here,
now.
while you're doing that, I'm just gonna say this. I do think that there is a lot of, I think there's the smoke and fire. I think it's all there with regards to, Britt not having a lot of friends backstage. I think that she did rub a lot of people the wrong way. I think that that's maybe why she's gone. Like, they brought her in to do the Monet match. And then, obviously something happened with Serena Deeb on TV, and then we haven't seen her since. So I think that it's probably likely that they are just like, you know what, this maybe isn't worth it, and they're just keeping her home.
So I found who it was and where it was from and everything like that. So this was, again, the same source as the Britt Baker thing. This is Corey Hayes, bodyslam.net, which is, again, where this is the crossover with Pro Wrestling Nexus. Saying that WWE isn't sure about signing CMLL talent right now with the AAA thing, but that they have their eye on Mascara Dorada. And the way that came off to me was, okay, so WWE doesn't have plans to sign anybody because they don't know what they're doing with AAA right now. Let's just throw out the biggest name on CMLL's roster who has not worked for WWE and just say, yeah, WWE's interested in them. Mm-hmm. That's the way that it comes off to me.
Corey Hayes is the guy who also just recently tweeted out that thing about how, like, working for WWE would be a dream, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like he's so. Well, yeah, I don't know what I don't know what to think about him. He's just it's unfortunate that we have to go back to this. I mean, not to say go back to it, but we once again have this a lot of dirt sheets coming to prominence that we're just clearly just posting whatever and seeing what would stick for clicks. But I think we're coming back to that realm, because it seemed like for a while people were being a lot more prudent with what they were running with. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because Body Slam did kind of generate a bit of recognition and a bit of notoriety and a bit of respect over the years. Because obviously Cassidy Haynes famously was the one who broke the story that Danielson was coming to AEW back in 2021. I think he might have been the one who broke the CM Punk was in talks with AEW story. So he did have some pretty big scoops,
yeah,
and that helped Body Slam grow. I think now he's
yeah, I think that's similar to what you have to like separate with PW Insider, mm-hmm. who is the person writing their article.
Yes, because you got Dave Schur, who owns it, who is unhinged and crazy. And then you have Mike Johnson, who's like actually well respected, but is for some reason unreasonably loyal to Dave Schur and won't just leave him.
Let's go down one more layer here. Cedric Alexander. It shouldn't be low confidence. That should say confirmed jump technically, because he is signed, it seems, with TNA.
Well, it's low confidence in the sense that TNA is not a jump location for
No,
us, so we would take him off.
that's just me having a typo. It's supposed to be a confirmed jump.
Yeah. Well, either way, he's going off the chart.
Yeah. And then we have finally Karrion Kross is staying as remote. It came out, and by came out, it was just confirmation of what we already knew. His contract is supposed to expire next month. Allegedly, reportedly, there is not much going on with that.
Yeah, and
I don't think anything's happening yet, and I'm not flinching on whether or not this could be like work stuff.
No, and here's the thing. We've been pretty consistent with this, that it's like, whether he leaves or not, like whether he resigns or not, it's completely irrelevant for our purposes, because let's say he resigns, then obviously he's coming off the chart and he's staying. And we think that it's more likely than not that, and then, well, let's say, so he would come off the chart. And then let's say he did not resign. If he did not resign, we don't see him going anywhere that we track. We don't see him going to AEW. We don't see him going to New Japan. We don't see him going to any of those places. So it'd still be remote.
Well, remember that we changed how all that worked, right?
In what way?
It's that either they have to have interest from one of the three major promotions, or they have to be notable enough for us to be tracking them.
Oh, right.
So if we find that Karrion Kross is notable enough, then for his journey, TNA is a jump for him.
Okay, then yes, in that sense. But once again, I don't know what has changed. I think it's more likely than not that, is he hyping himself up on social media to try to get a better contract? Yes. But I think I don't see him necessarily leaving at this point. I don't see anything that's changing my view that he's probably ultimately going to get re-signed. I think it's still very possible that this is all part of a work. So we'll see what happens.
Feels here in the chat mentioning something about the Corey breaking the Motor City Machine Guns WWE news. Was that him starting the conversation about Motor City Machine Guns going somewhere, or did he say the WWE part? I'm trying to remember who it was that was saying that they were going to sign with AEW.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just know, because here's the thing with Motor City Machine Guns, like there was a lot of people talking about them, and we were getting a lot of different stories from a lot of different places in regards to where they're potentially going or not going. So, I mean, I don't even know if I can necessarily lock that down to one person.
Yeah. Yeah, Field says that it was that they were leaning towards WWE was what was mentioned by Corey Hayes at the time.
Okay. I mean, Corey Hayes probably does have WWE ties. I'm not saying he doesn't. He knows he does know people, I'm sure.
Let's look at the tracker as it stands right now. Let's run down the chart. Certain nobody's certain anymore. I'm not certain about this tracker anymore.
Is this the first time we've had nobody certain?
I don't think it's the first time, but it's the first time in a very long time because Hikuleo exists.
Yes.
Likely we have Ninja Mac and Zosiah currently in the likely tier. Mm-hmm. Then down in probable, we have B. Priestley, Joe Hendry, Rio, from the British Indies, Rio, Dakota Kai, Danhausen, and Miyu Yamashita.
Let me ask you a question about probable.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time we record is realistically it's going to be after All In.
It could be at All In.
It could be at
Could be in the stands at All In. Could be during the Omega Okada match.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption it'll be after the show.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Wherever that recording happens, it'll be after the show. How many in the probable category do you think we are going to be taking off the chart?
Like next week?
Yes.
None.
You think none?
None.
I think at least one.
Who?
I think I could see Dakota Kai.
Her contract's not up.
I thought it's up.
Not until after.
Oh, I thought it was up. Okay. So you don't think B. Priestley?
No. Oh, no.
You don't think so? Okay.
B. Priestley was just announced for the 5-star Grand Prix.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, well.
And then And then Miyu, you think that we're not going to get any news on her?
She's the one that I think is the most possible.
Okay.
Just
All right.
because she's the only one that actually is like we have solid tie to All In Weekend.
Why did I think that she was was up soon?
Dakota Kai was released
Yeah,
formally.
give me the date on that.
Yeah, let me do more searching for you.
Do some radio research real quick. And here, while you're doing that, I'll read the toss-ups. It says right now for toss-ups, we have Michael Oku, Gigi Dolan, and Shayna Baszler.
Dakota Kai wasn't released until May. So
okay.
3 months after May is August.
Okay, so maybe that maybe another month on her. Okay,
yeah.
So Shayna Baszler is the same then, right?
Shayna Baszler's the same timing. Yeah, they it seemed like they essentially they did the cycling where all the people that were released in the previous cycle all had their contracts run out in May, right around the same time when they did that last batch of releases. So that was like the Good Brothers was the most famous example, where they then appeared at the New Japan Strong show that weekend, that they then released all the new people at the same time, and it lined up so that none of them could appear at All In except for anybody that was on an NXT contract that was released at that time.
Mm-hmm. And that would not be Gigi Dolan either. Was she released earlier?
Yes, so she was earlier, I believe, and she also has already appeared on doing indie shows. So that's how you know that she is definitely a free agent at this time.
The returning Priscilla Kelly. Okay, so that was toss up. For possible, we have Alexander Hammerstone, Ace Austin, Private Party, and Sareee.
And just to clarify, Gigi Dolan was released in the same batch as Dakota Kai, or now Priscilla Kelly, but she was on an NXT deal, which was a 30-day notice of release, and that is why she is now since appeared on indie bookings and such.
There we go.
So her contract already expired in June, whereas Dakota Kai's contract won't expire until August.
Right. And I don't think you have anything to add on the possible people. Unlikely, we have Gabe Kidd, Leon Slater, Saraya, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bayley, Deonna Purrazzo, and Masha Slamovich.
Yep, and I don't have anything to say on those. Down in remote, Utami Hayashishita, Sami Zayn, Matt Cardona, AJ Styles, Athena, Bishop Dyer, Chris Jericho, who is that right there? That's Karrion Kross, and Persephone. I don't know why I said who's that right there. His name's right there.
Persephone, man, I keep going back and forth with her.
The thing with her is that we knew that WWE was interested in her going back into January. She has remained in CMLL totally fine since then, and since after the AAA acquisition. So I'm starting to feel like it might not be happening with that, but then at the same, it's interesting that WWE hasn't done any signings of people outside of AAA onto WWE formal contracts. They have not signed anybody new from Mexico yet.
Which is weird.
Which is, yeah, it's either that means that, like, you know, the dam's not breaking for CMLL, because it was reported by Ocampa that CMLL originally was going to change their contract structure and try to modernize their wrestling style a little bit. And then the acquisition happened by WWE of AAA. And after that, CMLL decided, no, what we need to do is brand ourselves as authentically Mexican and lean more into the fact that our contracts are pro-labor. So they didn't renegotiate contracts with people. They were originally going to make it so that, like, if you appeared on AEW or New Japan or Rev Pro, you had to have a more restrictive contract, and then they decided after the fact, no, wait, we can be the ones that are like, no, you're not restricted by becoming the CMLL. You can do these indie bookings, and you can do bookings for their partner promotions. That's like it is interesting that like that's how they reposition themselves to be on closer to where AAA was previous to the acquisition of WWE than where AAA is now.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good summary of it. So with that, then that's everything. Anything else you want to go over this week?
Nothing to go over. We are still having our Substack there. If you subscribe, you can nominate. You will get a link to our form so you can nominate people for us to discuss here each and every week on WrestleWatch. We are doing awards also right now within our committee for the mid-year awards. We're looking at things related to jumps, in-ring action, matches, all that goodies. We might be talking about that on an upcoming episode as well.
Absolutely. So until then, I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan. Have fun with this next week of pro wrestling action. We have a bunch of big shows coming up next week by all the major promotions. So hopefully you guys all enjoy.